Good afternoon. I'm going to call this session of the Board of Revision to order. I'd like to begin by making the statement that we are on Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. With me today, farthest to my left is Brent Harrison. Next to me, Jeff Veitch. My name is Harvey Diamond. The City Assessment Department is represented by Trish Caldwell, and our secretary is Kelsey Harrison. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rules in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision have been requested are described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statement that the parties, either applicants or assessors, make at this hearing must be sworn testimony, and all parties must be sworn in. Be advised, comparative assessments are not accepted by our board, and we do not consider them as evidence. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by council. We are independent of the city administration. We make our decisions on the basis of the evidence that we hear, and that alone, and we issue written orders that will be sent out as soon as possible by mail. Please note that our decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to an application for exemption from taxation. Should a party wish to appeal, the information will do so will be included with our order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed by each applicant. Following that applicant swearing in, we will then have the applicant's testimony, we'll have the assessor's testimony, followed by any questions that we may have, following which the applicant will provide his evidence, followed by any questions that may be asked. And both parties will be allowed to summarize if they wish to do so. Once all the evidence is brought in an application, the party may leave. The post will be reviewed for each matter on the agenda today, and after all the questions have been heard, we will close our hearing, we'll deliberate in private, and we will issue written orders by registered mail as soon as possible. The information today is being recorded, live streamed, and will form part of a public record. Thank you.
Would you please state your name?
Tricia Del Calder.
And do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Bradford Scott Works.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay, the first matter on the docket today is 100 and 150 Soto Crescent, and when you're ready, please call in to proceed.
All right, I haven't done this in a couple of years, so forgive me if I'm a little stumbling.
We're all a little rusty on these,
Okay,
but
yeah,
I'm
okay.
sure we'll be into it by the end of the
Okay,
hearing.
thank you. All right, 100 Salto Crescent, the business ID is 5607, and the 2020 annual rental value is $2,953,740. You'll see we have one business premise. It is very large at 533,795 square feet. We have a rent of $3.40 on that. We have full heat, electric, and water, and 36,876 square feet of air conditioning. And all those summed together brings us to our ARV of $2,953,740. This is an owner-occupied business. This is a table rent at $3.40. And I have several comparables listed. They're all larger ones that I could find, and rents range between $3.94 and $5.85. This is a storage warehouse distribution building with an effective year of 1995. And I think that's all my evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Borgstrom, any questions to the assessor?
I do have just a few.
Go ahead, please.
There was a Board of Revision appeal heard and decided by this board for the 2020 realty assessment.
Yes, there was.
And in its decision, the board arrived at the rental rate for exactly this same premise area.
Yes.
And the reference date is exactly the same for the realty appeals as for the business assessment appeals.
Yes.
And with respect to section 318.2 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, and I know you don't have it in your brief, but are you aware that among other things, there is a requirement that the premises be similar in size, in part?
That the premise.
Then in determining the annual rental value, let me just read it for you. In determining the annual rental value of premises, the city assessor must take all factors into account so that as far as possible, premises similar in size, suitability, advantages of location and lake are equally assessed at a fair rental value based in general on the rents being paid for similar premises.
Okay,
And you don't disagree with that?
no.
Now, all of your rental comparables are, as much as 5 times smaller than the subject premises, right?
Yes,
And so, you really don't have any rental comparables that would be anywhere close in size, right?
unfortunately, anything this size is owner occupied.
Okay, and in its decision, with respect to the realty assessment appeal, do you know what rate the board applied
$325,
per square foot?
yes, and that was appealed to the municipal board.
Those are my questions, thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions, Mr. McIntyre?
No, I have no questions.
Mr. Bench, any questions?
Thank you.
And you're indicating that, Mr. Broch's question, you couldn't find any comparables this size that were
No,
rented with
not
leases?
even close, no.
Okay, so, thank you. Okay, Mr. Broch, your evidence.
So, I want to start out, because you're gonna see this a number of times today, we have recently received confirmation from Lisa Hutter, who had some discussions with the chairman of the board, indicating that it was entirely permissible to bring in 2020 board revision orders for a subject premise, and that's exactly what we've done here.
We just got the email,
Okay.
so we're okay.
Yeah, and we just got it today as well, so in anticipation of that, I had prepared my briefs.
Okay, at the same time, on the basis of, obviously, we have a hearing too, and if we accept the evidence, it
Sure.
doesn't matter what was determined in the previous
Yeah.
session.
Well, and so I'm going to tell you that both Ms. Caldwell and I were involved in the realty assessment appeal. And I agree with her that the board in the realty hearing decided to apply our income with some adjustments, but our income was $325 per square foot. That's exactly the rate that we are requesting here. I've attached to the board order at the rear of our submission with respect to the 2020 realty appeal. So that'll be pages 11 and 12 at the rear. And then on page 8, on that basis, you'll see our requested adjustment to the 2020 business assessment appeal based on the undisputed occupancy costs and $325 a square foot in terms of the appropriate market rent to be applied. We seek a reduction to $873,640. And that is our submission.
Thank you. Any questions, Ms. Caldwell?
So based on that request to apply that rate that was determined at the Board of Revision for the realty, you don't have any comparables?
No, we made a full submission at the board revision hearing for the realty, and we're just seeking an extension of that, which historically this board has done. And similarly, the department historically has accepted.
Well, we
I-
appealed the.
Yeah, I acknowledge that there's an
decision,
appeal
so-
and a cross appeal on the property. However, the board adjusted the realty assessment. That is what the legal realty assessment is now. We're simply asking that the business assessment match. Okay.
Mr. Magna, any questions?
I have no questions.
Mr. Peach, you have any questions?
Just a point of clarification, so you haven't brought any comparables. Are there likely comparables?
Nothing of this size, and I actually brought a copy of our 2020 realty assessment brief. I'm happy to submit it in evidence. I can tell you that I, before this board, brought in 9 different rental comparables with an average of 362.
What page are they on?
These are, okay, so.
The evidence that we have here, what page
Okay,
is
so
it?
perhaps then I will submit as well, our realty brief.
Well, what is it, is it rebuttal?
Well,
We have a
this-
hearing right now, the evidence is supposed to be in.
So, as part of our evidence with respect to that, for which there is no advanced filing requirement, and since the question has arisen, I'm happy to introduce our realty assessment brief, which will provide the basis for the board's decision in that appeal. So perhaps I could ask you to make some copies for the panel.
Well, I think you should come prepared with it. I mean, if you're gonna have to do this in every hearing.
Well,
No, hang on, Mr. Boardroom, like, we have a hearing here today, and we have to make a determination based on the evidence that we hear today. Otherwise, there'd be no point in having this whole matter. If it was gonna be simply going the same route as the realty appeal, there would be no need for a hearing today at all. So we have an obligation to hear evidence, and it's gotta be put in the proper way, and based on evidence, we gotta make a decision. And it doesn't matter what was decided before us, we have to make a decision based on the evidence that we hear today. Otherwise, there'd be no point in having us here. If it's gonna be rubber stamped, what's the point of even having this hearing if that's the case?
I was basing our approach based on past practice before this board.
Well, I'm
But
not
if
telling
I-
you
if I-
that,
If I may finish.
okay, go ahead.
And that being the case, then for all of those appeals for which this board confirmed the 2020 realty assessment, and there are a number of those today, we will now then therefore be bringing in a full submission again on each of those properties that were confirmed to allow the panel to make its own independent decision.
We have to do that, otherwise there'd be no point in having a hearing, would there? If we were gonna rubber stamp everything, would there be any need for us to even be here today?
Well, Mr. Chairman, it's.
I'm asking a question, I'm asking you to answer that.
And I am. It's not a matter of rubber stamping. What I will tell you, our view of this, and I think the email that I received earlier today acknowledged that there is a clear nexus between the Board of Revision's findings concerning market rent in the realty appeal, and exactly the same market rent that should be applied in a business assessment appeal.
Well, we're a different board, and we have to go on the evidence that we hear today.
Well, I appreciate it's a differently constituted panel. It is in fact the same board.
It's the same board, it's a different panel, and one panel is not authority for another panel.
And
It's
that's
not,
fair
the
enough.
municipal board would be.
And so I have prepared our briefs today based on past practices, but certainly going forward on every premise for which there was a previous confirmation, I will in the future bring in a full submission on each and every.
Which I think is a good idea, because as I said, I don't see any reason to have this hearing at all if everything is gonna be based on what was determined on the realty. There'd be no point in having business tax applications.
We take the position that there is a clear nexus as between the market rent, same reference date as determined for the realty appeal, and the market rent with an April 1st of 18 reference date for a business assessment appeal.
And that would be saying then that the panel that made the first determination was correct, and that we, in fact, then are bound by it, which is not the case. We have to have the evidence that will establish, and you might very well be able to convince us that your rental is a correct rental, but
And
you
so-
haven't provided it to us.
And so let's just extend that a little bit. The department has, at least in part, accepted that premise. You'll see here on the docket today that there are a couple of 15-1s. Those arise from the realty decisions of this board for 2020 realty assessment appeals. That's what those agreements were based on, without getting into the details.
Okay, you know what, Mr. Boardroom, I think that I'd like to have a conference with my panel members, because I don't want my opinion to prevail. I have a few other people here who might disagree with me. So I'm gonna call just a short time span, like both of you, Ms. Cole, to leave, and we'll discuss this matter and determine how we're gonna proceed, okay? Okay, so we've actually looked at the email that we received, as well as my own thoughts on it and panel members' thoughts on it. This is a hearing that is based on evidence that establishes what we're gonna decide. We have to have evidence to make that decision, and a decision by another panel is not binding upon us. We have to base it on the evidence we hear today, and we're gonna require evidence on all these matters.
Well, the evidence that we have is before you now. Certainly going forward, there will be a different approach taken, but today, this is what I have here before you.
Okay, well, it's your hearing, and you can provide the evidence that you wish to provide.
Well, no, I've been precluded from also submitting our brief in the realty assessment.
Well, you could have brought your brief. You had to bring us evidence
I-
that establishes a rental.
I did bring it,
You brought one copy,
that's correct.
and you want us to make copies of everything in every hearing.
Well,
If you want to refer to anything viva voce, you can do so.
well, we can certainly do that.
You know. I'm gonna ask, is there an objection from the assessment department for us to get copies of those?
No.
Okay, you know what then? It'll make it easier if you're gonna provide viva voce anyway to make copies. If you're gonna do that in every matter though,
Only, but for today, correct?
Yeah.
And so going forward, certainly my approach will be different.
I think it has to be, Mr. Brookshire, because we have an obligation to base our decisions on evidence that we hear. Another panel could have made mistakes that maybe they hear different things, we don't know what the approach was then, but we have to base our evidence, our decision on the evidence that's provided today. And that means we need evidence, not indication that a previous board member here or panel made a determination based on evidence that they heard that we haven't even had a chance to see. So,
Well, I'm not quite sure if I understood you correctly. The assessor, you asked the assessor, and I don't believe she expressed an objection.
I don't believe she expressed an objection either. I think she said that she's prepared to accept. You to provide us with details of your evidence.
But yeah, and perhaps I misheard you, but I understood you to say copies of the brief.
Well, I guess we need copies of the brief then, if you're gonna.
We're gonna have to call a recess.
Yeah.
Because this will take some
Yeah.
time.
Okay, we'll resume the hearing, Mr. Brookstrom.
Thank you.
And so what has been handed out here is the rental comparables Altus Group presented at the realty assessment appeal hearing in respect of the 2020 assessment year. And you'll see there 9 rental comparables, the largest of which is 346,746 square feet in size. You'll also recall from the evidence presented here that the premise area is 533,795. Based on all of that, we submitted at that hearing that a rental rate of $325 per square foot was appropriate. The panel in that case, with the same reference date, agreed with the $325 per square foot. And with that, I believe that's the information we want to present.
Thank you. Any questions, Ms.
I don't have any questions.
Mr. McIntyre?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Page?
So just one further point of clarification. The premise address 100 and 150 Salto, I noticed the assessors is 100. This is just because the structure is so large, it's two civic addresses.
No, actually, when you look at the actual assessment notice,
Yeah.
it actually specifies on there, it's one and the same, but the city somehow differentiates between the assessment roll address for realty purposes and different for business assessment purposes. Single occupant, same total area,
Yes, okay.
same premise area. They have just identified it differently, but for business, for the 2020 business assessment roll, and You can certainly check on the application for assessment revision that was filed. It is correctly shown as 100 Salto Crescent and 150 Salto Crescent.
Okay, thank you, no other questions.
Okay, so I'm just looking, Mr. Boschman, at the market rates that you've provided us. And the city's using a rental of $340 per foot. And your comparables show an average rate of $362 and a median of $375.
For the largest one being 346,000 square feet in the subject premise
Right, which is the $345 a square foot, which is 5 cents more than the city
And
is
so if
assessing.
you apply economies of scale with 533,000 square feet in size as a single occupant property,
Wow.
325 was my opinion at the board revision for the realty assessment appeal, remains my opinion here today.
Okay, and in deciding that it's 325, I see that a previous board made their finding based on giving you a capitalization rate of 675, and adding back in the 5% non-recoverable,
Yes,
and that wouldn't apply to rents, because that's something that the
That's-
tenant pays.
that's exactly correct, but the 325 per square foot rent that we show there,
Yeah, I'm looking at the order, I don't
Right.
know where it says
and
325,
so if you run through the calculations,
but that includes though a 5% non-recoverable, that,
so to come at, for realty assessment appeal purposes, what you're talking about there is a capitalized value for the net operating income.
no, I understand, but I'm
if
saying to you,
But if you work backwards out of that and add in all the appropriate
well, okay, I don't see your calculations, because I only see here.
And so we will also then apply that going forward.
I think you
as well.
should, because based on this, all I can see is that the decision was made on a 6.75 capitalization rate,
So,
and they added back in the 5%, which would not apply to business taxes.
which is completely moot in terms of the
Yeah.
net market rent.
Well,
Let me
it
tell you,
may or may not,
well.
depending on how you arrive at your figures.
So let me then add to that, because I am under oath, that I have gone through the calculations based on the board's decision, and the rent works out to $325 per square foot.
And that's adding in the 5% non-recoverable?
5% is irrelevant in
Well-
determining the three. So I calculated the assessment with the board's cap rate and the 5% non-recoverable. 325 was the rent that the board applied in its decision. And in fact, when you look at our workup, which wasn't included, because all we wanted was the rental comparables, we have a potential market net income of $1,751,084 for the realty assessment appeal. So that's 340. If we applied 325 per square foot in our calculations on a realty appeal, that's what the board utilized in its decision on the realty appeal, and we're suggesting that that's exactly what we apply here today.
Okay, Mr. Rocha, thank you. Okay, the next matter is 1615 King Edward Street. When you're ready, Ms. Caldwell?
For the 2020 Warrior, this is business ID 4380. We have a total rental value of $1,696,500. We have one business premise at 264,434 square feet. And we have a rent of $4.28 applied to that. We have full heat, electricity, and water, and 19,900 square feet of air conditioning, which brings us to our total ARV of $1,696,500. This is an owner-occupied storage warehouse with an effective year of 1973. I then have several rental comparables. Again, this is a large premise, so I looked for larger comparables, and my rents range from $2.96 to a high of $8.15 to support our value. And we asked the board today to confirm our 2020 ARB. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Brookson?
I have just a few. And maybe my eyes are getting old. Can you show me on here where it shows the age of the subject
It
properties?
doesn't, I just wrote
Okay.
that down.
And so you don't show the age. Do you know what the wall heights on the subject premise are?
24 to 38 feet.
And in fact, isn't it true that there are 10-foot sections and 12-foot sections in there as well?
Of office? I don't know, but I am assuming if there is, that's mainly office space.
Fair enough. Similarly, is land to building ratio something that would have an impact on the rental rate achievable in the market?
Possibly, yep,
Okay. Do you know what the land building ratio is on the property?
I do not.
Okay. Those are my questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bunch, any
I
questions?
have none at this time.
Mr. Smith, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
And I don't either.
So as with the previous property, this is a single occupant building. It is smaller in size with a total premise area of 264,434 square feet. I can tell you that it was also the subject of the 2020 Realty Assessment Appeal, for which the Board of Revision issued its decision, and I have attached that decision at the rear of our submission. I do want to take you to our page 4, as we did with the previous property. There is a description of the building. There are many factors which affect rental rates, including age of the property, land to building ratio. This particular property, as you'll see on page 4, 2.11 to 1. That's low for industrial type properties. Exactly the same circumstances on the previous one. All the information is in there. And so, based on this, and I also now, or you now have in your hands a list of the rental comparables that we utilized at the Board of Revision hearing. This property being smaller in size, I applied a rate of $375 a square foot to this property, which the Board of Revision accepted for the Realty Assessment Appeal based on these rental comparables, with its age and the various wall heights. And so we show our calculations of the requested business assessment on page 7, and we're looking for a reduction based on all of that to $1,556,340.
Thank you. Any questions, Ms. Colwell?
So this is an older building,
In part.
in
It's-
part.
It's a bit of a hodgepodge construction. The
Okay.
details, I believe, are on page 4. And you can see there, it's had a number of additions in the 2000s, and there was one in 1997. But when you total all of those up, it works out to less than 50%. And the ones in the 2000s are 44,000 square feet in size of the total 265,000 premise area.
Okay, you mentioned the low land to plan area. What, do you know the land to plan area of your comparables?
I do not have the information with me.
So, we can assume that some of these have similar land to plan areas, being that they're more older industrial buildings.
Not the case, I don't believe it, no, certainly not the case for 770 Pandora, and comparables 2, 3, and 4 are all 770 Pandora. That's not the case for 1750 Inkster Boulevard. That will be the case for the one on Berry Street, that's 820 Berry Street. We'll be dealing with one of those in today's hearing. And for Stony Place, I'm going by recollection, but to the best of my memory, it does not have a low land dividend issue in that location in Fort Garry.
I think there's any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Page, do you have any questions? Samantha, do you have any questions?
I just have one, and maybe to clarify, on page 7, or page 4, you're showing the total area of 282,000,
Yeah.
yet you're using 264,000?
Same as the city, I believe that there is some space in there that is considered, mutually considered to be not leasable. So the,
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that was my only question.
Thank you. And I don't have any questions, thank you. Okay, next we have 52 Caithness Road. When you're ready, Ms. Cobble.
This is business ID 3912. For the 2020 roll year, we have a total ARV of $97,500. We have one business premise and a storage warehouse facility. We have an effective year of 1969. The premise area is 10,893 square feet, and we have a rent of $6.70. We have full heat, electric, and water, and 4,533 square feet of air conditioning, bringing us to our total ARV of $97,500. Then have some rental comparables, similar size, with rents ranging from $6.50 to $6.88 to support our $6.70 rent applied. That is my evidence. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Motion, any questions?
I do have just a few. And one is just a clarification. You're showing the,
I was just going to, I think I.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna mention, it does say subject lease information. That is not arm's length. This is owner occupied property. So that reported rent of $11.02, you can just cross that out.
those are my questions.
That was your question. You
Okay.
answered the question, okay. Okay, we've crossed that out. Ms. Maggie, do you have any questions?
That premise ID has an address of 52B Caithness Road?
Yeah, I'm not sure why.
Oh, okay. Makes two of us. That was my only question.
Okay. And I guess my only question is, I see your comparables, how close are they in approximation to the property that we're dealing with, and insofar as premises in comparison? Did you check them to see if you just have numbers or if they're actually comparing apples to apples?
I know some of the buildings. This is, Caithness Road is off of Notre Dame, which is like west of King Edward, I believe. I forgot to include my map.
If I might step in, I can help clarify. It's certainly within our.
You know what, clarification is what we want, so I'll certainly allow you to step in. Okay.
So, subject property, and it's on page 4 of our evidence, it's on the northwest corner of Caithness and Stevenson Road, which lies west of Route 90, as the assessor indicated, so St. James.
Okay.
So as far as these,
The properties, like the
They
ages
are-
and everything else are all comparables?
yes,
Okay, thank you. That's my question.
thank you.
Okay, Mr. Wilkerson, you can proceed.
Thank you. And so this property, again, oops. Maybe I'll wait for
You already said
the
that.
information.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, well, I told you to go ahead, so
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So again, on page 9 and 10 of our submission, this property was the subject of a realty assessment appeal for 2020. The board revision actually Mr. Navarro from our office represented the owners, and Mr. Lowenstein on the part of the city. The board revision, based on the evidence presented at that hearing, reduced it. I did actually bring the calculation of the rents. It works out to $5.50 a square foot. That's what we're requesting. I can tell you that the city did not file an appeal on this. However, I believe that Mr. Navarro did, so there is a pending municipal board appeal. Now, whether he's going to argue further on rents, I'm not sure. But certainly this board decided $5.50 a square foot was appropriate and not the $6.70 that was brought in. So on page 4, you'll see there, this is a property built in 1967. Excuse me, single occupant, reported wall height 15 foot. This is taken right out of our border revision brief. And you can see on our page 2, that's a shot, and you'll see there's a little Google vehicle with the camera shadow driving by. That's a 15-foot wall height, so it's low wall height, built in 1967, which I suspect is why the board decided on $5.50 a square foot. So that is the information I believe I want to present today on this property.
So, any questions?
I have no questions.
Mr. any questions? McIntyre?
I have just one. On page 2, you're showing the 2020 ARV to be 96,540. Is there a correction required there?
Yeah, hang on, let's look. Yeah, it should be 97.5,
Okay.
sorry.
Thank you,
Yeah.
that was all my questions.
And the reference date should be 18, not 20.
Okay, and on this one, you don't have any rent comparables?
I did not bring any in on this one, nor did I bring the brief with me.
Thank you very much. Okay. So we're next dealing with 35 Airport Road. So were you ready to proceed?
All right, this is business number 3674 for the 2020 roll year. We have an ARV of 240,000. We have one business premise with 28,600 square feet at $6.36. We have full heat, full electric and water, and 2,300 square feet of air conditioning, bringing us to our annual rental value of $243,000. I then have several rent comparables, ranging from $4.20 and $7.75. This, I'm not sure whether or not this reported rent is arm's length or not. It is not. Okay, so you can also ignore that $4.50. This property was also appealed at the Board of Revision for the realty, and it was confirmed. So we asked the board to confirm our ARV of $243,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brochman, questions?
I do have a few questions. If we take a look at your page 2, I'm going to, or I guess the question is, have you had a chance to inspect the
I
property?
have not.
Okay, and you don't show the age of the property on here, right?
No.
But it's fair to say that it's older?
Yes.
And in your pictures, it shows what appears to be an elevated slab, correct?
Yes.
And so that would actually give you a lower wall height inside and a lower yet again clear ceiling height inside, correct?
Yes.
And it has two, if we look at the top picture on your page 2, and it's a little, the top picture is a little clearer than the bottom 2 pictures, but there are 2 separate sections with different wall heights in here, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so, do you know if your rental comparables are of a similar age or wide as this?
I don't know wall heights. I can tell you that we have an effective year of 1970 on this building, and my comparables are from 1960, the last two, the 1500 King Edward, those are about 1960. Sherwin Road is 1965. The newest one in here is 1271 Sargent at 1981. Notre Dame is 1973, Century is 1961, as is 6095 Sargent.
Okay, so 2030 Notre Dame underwent some significant renovations recently or over the last few years. Do you know when the last time these records were updated?
As far as,
Effective age?
no.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Price, do you have any questions? Mr. Becker, do you have any questions?
I don't.
And I don't either. Mr. Wilson?
So our submission, sorry, is pretty short.
It's coming, we'll have it in a second. Thanks.
There's not much to look at here. The Board of Revision confirmed the 2020 realty assessment in this case. We disagree with that decision, and it has been appealed to the municipal board. I can tell you that I have personally inspected this property previously, and it is in fact, the one section is really low, clear ceiling height inside. The other side has 2, 3, 4 feet more than the section to the south. But based on the Board of Revision decision on the 2020 realty assessment, we're looking for a confirmation of the 2020 business assessment with the intent of appealing it further to the municipal board to follow the decision once that's actually scheduled and dealt with.
Okay, thank you.
And that's standard practice with the department, that one will follow the other.
Okay. Okay, our next property is yeah, I guess we really have interest, but it seems to be some Bison Drive, is it? Or,
This is number 10 on the road.
yeah.
So for clarification, on the 2020 business assessment roll, it shows up as A-1817 Wellington Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
And just for, and I'm sure the assessor will go into it, but just for clarification, it is actually within the old Eaton warehouse at 820 Berry. It's one of the units in there.
Okay, thank you. When you're ready, Ms. Caldwell.
Sure. This is business ID 5730. For the 2020 rule year, we have an ARV of $841,380. We have a premise area of 125,576 square feet at $4.59. We have full heat, electricity, water, and no air conditioning. This is a warehouse space. We do have a reported rent of $5.41. However, I don't know how that's broken down, to be honest. I don't know if it's gross or net. I then have several comparables, larger in size, with rents ranging from $4.50 to a high of $8.15. In this case, the realty was not appealed. That's my evidence. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Boardroom, any questions?
And so just a couple of questions. 51 Burmac is Monarch Industries. Were you aware that that was a lease arising from a sale leaseback transaction?
I was not.
And given that it's a sale leaseback transaction, that rent should probably be disregarded according to IAAO standards.
Yes.
Now, 1345 Redwood, that's Boeing, right?
Yes, it is.
And so that building, were you aware that that building is fully air conditioning and underwent substantial renovations to have the lease renewed at that rate?
No.
Okay. 630 Kernahan, I'm not gonna get into the details, but I'm gonna ask that you check with Mr. Froelich about it. We sent him substantial information indicating that that is not the rent in place. It's closer to $435 a square foot. Just check it out with Merrick. It was also sent to Matthew as well, some months ago now.
Okay, that's your question?
Well, it's more of a comment than a question. I know that the rent is wrong, but I don't have, because I only just received this, I don't have the evidence here to establish that.
Okay.
But I'm telling you to ask about it.
Okay.
So. Now, the subject property, you know, if we look at your page 3, let's back up for a minute and look at page 2. All of these pictures on page 2 are fronting on Berry, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so if we look at page 3, that's an overhead shot of the entire property, more commonly known as 820 Berry, right?
Yeah.
And it's the old Eaton warehouse. Do you know where within this property Bison Transport occupies space?
No idea.
Those are my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Redmond, any questions?
I have no questions.
Mr. Fletch, any questions? And
So this one is not quite as straightforward as you might originally think. I can tell you that I have worked on this property, not this cycle, but for previous cycles for realty assessment appeals, so I have some familiarity with it. I'm going to start at page 4, and as previously indicated, this is the old Eaton warehouse. It's now been subdivided into a number of different premises. First thing I'm going to tell you on page 4, you can see there the little red dot. That's indicating the location of 820 Berry. And if you look to the west of that or to the left, you'll see a little strip on a separate roll with trailers being parked there. Those are actually lands leased separately by the landlord to accommodate parking for Bison's trailers. There is an insufficient amount of land in this location. They separately lease those lands. I'm also going to tell you that for the purposes of this hearing, we have not adjusted the rent for that. But it is an aside. This was originally built in 1960. There is a total leasable area within this building as a whole of about 639,500 square feet of total leasable area within this building. I can tell you that the Bison people leased 125,576 square feet of that space. And if we turn to page 5, I can tell you, and so I had a bunch of questions, not only of Bison, but also we worked for the owner of this property for realty appeal purposes, and so I was able to gather information from a number of different sources. I can tell you that I confirmed that the location of the premise leased by Bison is at the rear of the building, so it's not on Berry, it's not on Saskatchewan. So if you look at the picture at the top of page 5, or just to the left and up slightly above the big building, that's Berry Street. If you look at the roadway at the left-hand side towards the bottom left-hand corner, that's Saskatchewan Avenue. If you go all the way to the top right, that's Wellington Avenue. I don't know why the city assigned 1817 Wellington to this, but this is rearage space and it's warehouse space. So that'll tell you the location, and I have confirmed that with both the owner, and I'll show you that in a minute, with both the owner and the tenant, Bison. So I'm going to tell you that this is a semi-gross lease. I have included for your reference, starting at page 10, the lease agreement that was signed in July of 2016. And you'll see that on page 10. If we turn to page 11, there is an annual rent. It escalates every year. And so for the period that we're dealing with around the reference date of April 1st of 2018, the per annum rent for this space was $734,619.60, but that's not a net rent. So if we take you to the next page, you'll see there on page 12, under paragraph 3, that the tenant in this lease agreement accepted the per annum premises on an as-is basis, subject only to the following, and that the landlord would contribute a maximum of $90,000 towards the cost of loading dock repairs. We haven't adjusted the rent for that, so we're not considering those repairs. If we look at paragraph 5, or clause 5, for the purpose of clarity, the tenant shall continue during and in respect of the term pay its proportionate share of the escalation in operating costs and property taxes over the base year ending July 31st, 1999. And so this is a rent where the owner absorbs, or the landlord absorbs, all of those expenses as of 1999, and the tenant pays any increases. So it's a semi-gross lease. So I'm also going to take you to page 14, and you'll see there, that's the rearage. And if you look at the directions of it, it's quite clear from the north. But actually, when you look at the direction of north, and it coincides with the picture I previously told you, this is rearage. So it's not really a road, but it's rearage. And then across is airport property that they lease parking for Bison's trailers. Next to the subject property is Park and Fly, and I tell you this because that's one of my rental comparables. It leases for $2 a square foot, also from 2016 net. So as part of what we included as verification, we show, and I've redacted the non-applicable information for 2017 on page 16. You'll see there common area recoveries. Doesn't show anything for property taxes, but it is clear from a reading of the lease that the landlord recovers only those property taxes above 2000.
Base year.
Base year 1999. To that end, if we take a look at the previous page 15, I have included a copy of the 1990 tax bill showing what the landlord absorbs in terms of costs every year. That's the gross amount, and I'll get into the calculation in a second. So if we take a look at page 6, I've gone through the exercise. It's $5.80 per square foot of gross premise area, or per square foot, with subsequent adjustments to the base year for property tax and op costs. The property taxes work out to, on a per square foot basis, that's for the whole building, 59 cents a square foot. The operating costs for the subject premise, $1.13 a square foot. When you deduct that from the subject lease, you work up to a net rent of $4.08 per square foot. Here, I have actually included a number of rental comparables as well. Some of them are quite a bit newer than the subject property, but you'll recall that I talked to you a moment ago about the Park and Fly. So this is at $4.08 a square foot. The Park and Fly in September of 2016 for 148,000 square feet. Which is about 20,000 square feet larger than the subject, give or take. That's $2 a square foot. That's same building right beside it. Arguably a better location, because they have Berry Street access. Bison doesn't need that, and so they are paying $4.08. Based on all of those rental comparables, we show our calculations on page 7. We think that the lease in place, certainly based on those rental comparables, is the strongest indicator of what that premise would lease for as of the reference date. And so we go through the calculations, there's no disagreement on occupancy costs, so we're looking for a reduction to $777,300 based on all of that. And I am open for questions.
Thank you. Any questions, Ms. Caldwell?
Sorry, that was a lot.
No, it's okay. I don't have any questions.
Ms. Knight, do you have any questions?
I have none, thanks.
Ms. Snyder, do you have any questions?
Just one on page 5. There appears to be semi-trailers parked on Berry, on the side of the
Yeah,
building.
and so when you look at the pictures, for Google Earth, this is a dated picture. I believe that City Bread was over there at one time. It's now, over there is now a Park and Fly from 2016. This is I believe, a historical picture.
Okay.
Certainly when you look at the assessor's pictures, it confirms that Park and Fly is in there on Berry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any questions, thank you. Okay, so we're now on 230 Cannon Road. Are you ready to proceed, Ms. Caldwell?
Okay. This is business ID 3123 for the 2020 roll year. We have an ARV of $819,780. This is a storage warehouse building. We have one business premise at 96,670 square feet, and we have a rent of $6.33. We have full heat, air, and water, and 11,445 square feet of air conditioning, bringing us to our total ARV of $819,780. There is subject lease information, shows reported rent of $5.25. This is not an arm's length rent. I then have several rent comparables, larger in size, with rents ranging from $5.85 to $8.15, and I will remove that last one, the 630 Kernahan. After hearing from,
The last two.
or is it both of them? Okay, I will remove both of those as comparable. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Brochon?
So you indicated that the subject lease is not an arm's length lease. That's, let me just correct you and tell you that it was a sale leaseback.
It was.
Yeah, and so they are arm's length parties. We don't rely on that lease either, but it's a sale leaseback transaction.
Yes.
And the subject property is located in Old St. Boniface Industrial Park, correct?
Yes, yeah.
And so Burmac is also, that's the only other one you have in St. Boniface, right?
Yeah.
And so 51 Burmac, that's Monarch Industries, that's again a sale leaseback. That should be disregarded, correct?
Okay,
You agreed previously?
yes.
And so what we then have left is the northwest quadrant of the city versus the subject area, right?
Yeah.
And those are my questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fletcher, any questions?
I have none, thanks.
Ms. Snyder?
I have no questions.
I have no questions. Mr. Brochon?
So as with the property at 35 Airport, I think I did it for 2020, the Board of Revision confirmed the realty assessment. And so, as with the property at 35 Airport, we are seeking, based on the Board of Revision's decision, in respect of the 2020 Realty Appeal to confirm the 2020 business assessment under section 54(1) of the Act.
Okay, thank you. And the last matter is the 500 Pandora Avenue. We don't really seem to have very much information on this one.
No. I'm just making a recommendation on this one.
Okay.
Did I give you two briefs by accident, Brad? Okay. Can I steal this from you after?
I'll make sure to read it if you want it.
Thank you.
I might not need it very long. I'm gonna listen to what Ms. Caldwell has to say, and see what Mr. Borsham has to say about it.
Okay. This is business ID 6650, 500 Pandora Avenue West. For the 2020 roll year, we have an ARV of $699,900. There was I believe a Board of Revision, or a revision by agreement on this property to apply a rate of $6.
Okay?
Anyway, so you'll see on page 2, my recommendation is to apply that $6 for a revised IRB of $660,840.
Okay.
I do not have client, I'm not gonna ask any questions, I do not have client instruction in this matter. We are not going to propose a recommendation, and we will not make further submission on it, and we'll ask the board to,
Make our decision.
based on the assessor's recommendation.
That's fine. And just in case anybody has any questions, last time, panel members, I don't either. Thank you. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you.